If you own a dog, you already know they can be awfully expensive. But if you have friends that are thinking about getting a dog, or just got a dog, or even might get a dog, share this episode with them. Because in today's episode, we are going to break down the cost of owning a dog in 2023. Let's get into it next. All right, let's get this week's episode going. Hey, everybody, I am Jake, and welcome to the Learn, Laugh, Bark podcast. I'm from a company. Me and my wife own a company called OnDog Training Academy. We're an online dog training company. We do courses. We do one-on-ones. We really like our one-on-ones. That's a really good time. One-on-one virtual lessons. But enough about that. You can check all that out on OnDogTrainingAcademy.com. I know why you guys are here. You're here to hear what I have to say today. And what we're going to be talking about is we're going to be talking about 2023 and the expenses of dogs. Now, I am recording this on February 8th, 2023. And I can only imagine that by December 8th, 2023, these prices are probably going to be more expensive given the way inflation and just costs in general have been increasing. But the reason I'm doing this episode is because we still run into clients who, when we're talking to them, kind of become shocked at how much they've had to spend on their dog, whether it be for training or for food or for whatever. They're just really surprised, like, oh my God, I didn't realize this dog would cost me this much. And I feel like this is something that we need to educate more people on, because sadly, when you look at shelters and you go and you see these young dogs, or any dog at the shelter, there's going to be a decent percentage of them that got surrendered because the people either A, didn't have the time to put in what they needed, or didn't have the money to give the dog what they needed, whether that be training or meds or food or whatever. And so they had to surrender the dog. I feel like if we can educate even one person with this episode, and it keeps that person from either A, getting a dog when they're not ready, or B, mentally preparing them for the expenses that this dog is going to cost them over the life of the animal, this is going to be a good podcast, and I am glad I'm doing it, even if it affects one person, helps one person. So I've been doing a lot of reading. I do a lot of reading in general, or a lot of watching videos if they have something, just about dog stuff. I love learning new things. And I came across an article from rover.com, and I will put a link to this in the description. And it basically started breaking down costs and things like that of owning a dog. Now, this article is from 2022, but honestly, I feel like a lot of this is going to equate and be just slightly higher in 2023. But it's a really good article that just sort of breaks down the legit costs that these animals are going to be pulling from our wallets. So the first thing we want to talk about is first-time dog expenses. These are expenses that you're going to have to probably put up right away when you get this new puppy. So the first one is, obviously, you have to, unless you're getting it for free, which, yes, it can happen, but if you're adopting it or getting it from a breeder, there's going to be some sort of fee. Now, this varies greatly. The chart that I have says the lowest is 100. Yeah, okay, I guess maybe. It's rare, in my opinion. I don't see a lot around here for 100. And then the high end, it says 700. I see a decent amount of adoption fees that are pretty high. I think $400, $500-$600, something like that. Or if you're buying from a breeder, it's going to be a lot higher than that potentially, right? Like Luda, I think Luda, our dog, was $1,500, and the breeder after that litter raised his prices to $2,000. Dogs are not cheap, and especially if someone's putting the time and energy into making sure that they are getting good dogs from that, it can be definitely expensive. Then we're going to start looking at some of the vet expenses, spaying and neutering expenses. So Spaying and neutering can really vary in prices, just kind of depending on where you are or if you're taking advantage of any sort of discount or whatever. But you're looking at $300 to $800, around that kind of range. Depends on your dog, depends on your dog's health, depends on age, all that stuff. But that's about kind of where you're sitting. And then if you're going to do microchipping, that's usually anywhere from $50 to $100. Your vet exams, your initial vet exams are usually around $300 to $500 just to get the dog checked out, get the vaccinations started, things like that, because they get them on a round of vaccinations, right? And that adds up. You've got your basic supplies, your collars, leashes, food bowls, poop bags, all that stuff, and we could tack on a few $100 probably to purchase all of that stuff. Yeah, maybe low end you could go and dollar store a lot of it, but to get the good stuff, you're going to have to spend a little bit more. Then you're looking at things like a crate. The crates vary so much depending on the style you're wanting to get, what your dog needs, the size, all that stuff. So they have crates from $10 to $330. I'm going to bump that up a little bit on the low end. I'm going to say you're probably not going to find a crate for your dog unless you're Craigslisting it really hard for less than $30. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like it's pretty expensive. Anyways, and then you've got your dog beds, your shampoo. It says stain and odor removers. Yeah, that's definitely a must. And that stuff adds up. Your toys, treats, your basic vet care. So this is anything in addition to the initial stuff with the vaccinations. And then if your city has any sort of licensing, that usually runs about $50 roughly. Sometimes it can be more, just depends. So on the low end of getting your dog, you're looking at an initial investment from anywhere from about $1,000 to $5,000. Now, that's a huge difference. And we're not talking about over, in my opinion, the first year of the life of your dog's life. We're talking about right away, all this stuff. Basically, right away, you're putting at least $1,000 into it. And if you're getting the dog from a reputable breeder, it's probably going to be more expensive. And the reason I mention all this cost up front is because we talk to a lot of clients who kind of bargain shop dogs. Now, we live out in the country, so we still have a little bit of that mindset of okay, well, it's just a dog. You could get it from the farm that had a whoops breeding, and it's fine. It's just a dog. But I don't look at it that way, and you can find them cheap. But I'm not looking to get a deal on a dog. I'm looking for a dog that, in my opinion, if I do the right research, even if I spend on the front end, we'll just take Luda for an example. We spent $1,500 on Luda on the front end. But, knock on wood, he has been healthy and he's almost 7 now. He turned 7 in less than a month. He has been basically healthy his whole life. And that has saved us so much money in the long run. So I don't look for discounts early on. I'm looking for health, and I'm looking for the quality of that dog, both physically and mentally. That to me is way more important. That's going to be a whole nother episode. In fact, I think I've done a whole other episode on how I select puppies. You can check that out. I believe it was early on in my podcasting because that was something I was very passionate about. But yeah, $1,000 to $5,000 upfront cost depending on everything that you want to get. I mean, yeah, like I said, you can bargain shop all you want. That's all fine. But things are going to add up. So now let's talk about the cost of the dog annually. What is this dog going to cost you? And I will agree with this. So I've read a couple different articles and they've thrown a couple different prices out. And I will actually tell you what we spend on Luda roughly annually, for some of his stuff. So the first one is food. Obviously, food is super important. And if you've listened to podcasts I've done in the past, you've heard me say food is one of the more important things. Obvious, right? Of course. But the reason for it is because even if you get a dog that's quality, get it from a good breeder, if you're feeding it junk, it's probably not going to be the most healthiest dog. Now, I know someone's going to be listening to this and go, well, yeah, but I fed, old Roy for 15 years to my other dog, and he lived, and wow, there are exceptions to every rule, but my also question would be, what was that dog's quality? Did it have early arthritis, skin issues, allergies, whatever. Like, some dogs live long because of good genetics, despite of what we feed them and put into them and do. So I don't know. I'm always just like with people, I want to give them the best quality food I possibly can. So they're saying in this article, they're saying food's anywhere from $200 to $2,400. Now, I will say $2,400 for one dog. I guess if you're feeding like a Mastiff or something that takes a ton of food, I could see this being a realistic thing. We spend about $900, roughly $900, about $80 a month. So right around 900-ish or so. My math is failing me right now in my brain. Every month. Yeah, about $80 every month on his food. Maybe a little bit more, just depends. And yeah, so $800-ish roughly, or $900 roughly or so a month is about what we spend. You know, and that's just what it is. Like, I don't care. I will pay $80 a month for my dog for his food because I know what I'm giving him is super good. And then on top of that, and what they don't put in here, I recommend giving your dogs some sort of nutritional like powder. So we do powders that have glucosamine, and it's got omegas in it, and it's just got a bunch of added goodness to it, and that costs more, of course, too. The other yearly expense you're going to have to deal with is your flea and tick preventatives, right? And of course your heart guard. And that's going to cost anywhere from $50 to $200. Like, honestly, your flea and tick preventatives and your heart guard, they're very necessary in my opinion, because I know people who take the natural route for the flea and tick preventative, and the dog ends up getting Lyme's, and I've seen what Lyme's disease can do to a dog, and it's really sad and crippling. And so I would just rather pay the extra money. Now, $50, that's low end in my opinion for heart guard and flea and tick. Like, I don't know who's getting away with just $50. I would say $200 is more of your realistic range for that. I just picked some up for Luda the other day, and it was fairly expensive. Poop bags, yeah, I mean, poop bags, it says $80 to $230 a year in poop bags. Honestly, I think that's all high. I think you can get away with, I mean, I guess it depends on where you live. If you're walking your dog and your dog is pooping away from your home, that's fine. Yeah, you definitely need more poop bags, but like $80 in poop bags every year? Jeez, $230 in poop bags every year? Holy cow, like, that's crazy. Treats, it says $60 to $270. I would say that's probably fairly realistic, depending on the size of your dog, of course. But again, just like with food, you're not going to feed them junk treats. You're going to make sure your treats are high quality, just to make sure that what you're putting in your dog is good for him. You get toys, and then your annual checkup. So toys, yeah, you're going to, depending on your dog, if you have a dog that destroys them, you're probably going to have to replace them a little bit more often. Annual checkups, yeah, like, that stuff's crazy, right? Like, I'm going to complain about the price or what I have to pay to take my dog to the vet. But the only reason I'm complaining about it is because it's expensive, but I completely understand why it's expensive. You know, I'm not complaining saying the vets are overcharging us or anything like that. It's just, whew. But this is one of those things that people need to remember. And this is annual checkup. This isn't emergency stuff that we're going to be talking about in a second. But they're saying an annual checkup of $70 to $100. Shit, like, I feel like I spend that every time I go to the vet. Like, we have 2 cats and then Luda. And our one cat is 18, almost 18 and 4 months. So, whatever. He's 18. He's got kidney failure. He's had that for a couple years, but he's going strong. And we have to do fluids with him, antibiotics periodically, whatever. And he's costing us at least, we go a few times, 3-4 times a year, and he's $100 a pop every time, you know. And so with the dog, you know, it's about the same. You're $100 a pop, and I usually go in 2-3 times with Luda. So you're looking at anywhere from $500 to $3,500. And I'm going to lean I'm going to say we're going to sit in the middle of this. I would say you're probably on average going to spend about $1,500 just on regular expenses. And I think that's kind of a low end. It really depends on your dog and everything, but
we'll be right back. Hello, this is Panic.
And this is Sarah.
And you are listening to Music Elixir, a podcast between two friends
discussing their favorite Asian artists and music.
It just adds up really fast. Now, they call these, the next category we're going to talk about here, they call them optional pet expenses. There's some of these I don't really consider optional. You know, like the first one is emergency vet bills. Is that optional? Like, do people really think that, like, if their dog needs to go to emergency vet, that, like, that's optional? I feel like if you have to take your dog to the emergency vet, it's an emergency. And unfortunately, that can be very, very expensive. You know, that they're saying $150 to $1,200 price range. I don't know of an emergency vet that you're going to walk out of there after bringing your dog in. It's only going to be $150. I feel like, personally, and this is just from experience, when you bring your dog to emergency vet, you're bringing them there for a reason that's concerning. You're going to probably walk out with at least anywhere from a $500 to $800 bill. Like, to me, that's not even, I wouldn't even be surprised if I saw that on when I got a bill from a dog going there. Then it says dental cleaning and wellness vet bills. So dental cleaning, yeah, I mean, that can be an optional thing. Hopefully, if you want this to be an optional thing, I recommend brushing your dog's teeth regularly to kind of make sure that their teeth stay healthy, because that is something that can definitely, especially if they're not big chewers, can definitely become an issue. But they're saying, $400 to $500 in that, and that's, I think that's about what it is. Wellness vet bills, I don't really know what that would be beyond getting your dog vaccinated and up to date on things like that. So yeah, they're saying $80 to $250. And now we get into a couple other ones here that are interesting. So dog boarding. Well, if you plan on going anywhere and your dog is going to be staying anywhere, they're saying dog boarding $40 to $280 a year. $40, in my opinion, for most places, that will get you maybe one night. Maybe you could find a place that you're going to be able to cover a couple nights, but if you're going on vacation and your dog has to stay somewhere and you have to board your dog, it's going to be a lot more than that. Like, it's going to end up being like $50 a night, and you're going to be gone for like a week or something, right? Because most of us don't take vacations that are a day. So they're saying $40 to $280. I'm going to lean more towards that $280 cost. Like, it's expensive. Now, I know I'm throwing a lot of numbers at you guys, and maybe this is boring, but this is the truth. This is real. This is what we should be expecting and what we should be telling people to expect. I think, telling people how they should choose a dog and all this different stuff, I think that's all super important. What to look for in a dog, training styles, all this different stuff that you want to like imprint on people to help them. But we also need to be super upfront with like, this is going to cost you a lot of money. Dogs are not free, even if they're free. They're not free. The next one's then grooming. Yeah, grooming. They're saying $20 to $150. Where are you paying $20 for a groomer? And I don't know if this is maybe just saying supplies for grooming. Okay, maybe, but like $150. Yeah, that sounds right. But I don't know. And this says apartment pet deposits. Yeah, you've got all your little expenses, pet insurance. I do pet insurance. A lot of people don't do pet insurance. I do it because I do sports stuff with my dog. And that definitely can add up really fast. And then there's one more on here, but I'm going to add one to this list as well. So the last one here as an optional expense, which I really don't think is an option, is training sessions. Training. Getting your dog into classes, taking your dog to privates, doing board and trains, whatever it might be. Training lessons are critical. I don't care. Like, for us, we get a dog, we take our dog. Yeah, we know how to train dogs, obviously, but like, we take our dog to other places, go through other people's classes, because we want our dog to experience the world. And sometimes that's a really good way to do it. You can get them around other dogs that are on leash, so you can control a lot of the situation. And it's just really good spot for your dog to go to. And they're saying $40 to $250. $40 to me is low. Like private lessons aren't even $40 anymore. Basically, they're anywhere from, like, we charge $75 for an hour. I've seen places charging significantly more. So they said $40 to $250. To me, that's going to be a lot higher. $250 is probably going to get you. When we did classes, that was like $150. It was $200 for an 8-week class. So yeah, it's going to get you one class in a private lesson, maybe, right? So like, you're going to want to make sure that you add in or figure in that expense for classes, because again, that's so important. You know, and especially if you're listening to this and you own a dog, but you're not a dog trainer, don't go into it going, "Oh, I'm going to wing it," or "I just hope I do this right." Hook up with a trainer that's going to be able to help you optimize what you need to for your dog so that you guys are just living an awesome life. And that's always the goal. Now, the one that's not in here that I think is important to factor into, and this really hits home for me, and it might not hit home for some of you, but for me and for people I know, dog trials, the dog training stuff. Like for me, it's also like I take my dog blood tracking and stuff for deer, and the gas expenses, the training, all the literature, all the stuff I've had to purchase and things, the memberships to different clubs and organizations, and traveling to do these things and all that stuff. Like that all adds up a ton too. But I have a feeling if you are entering some of these competitions or joining clubs, you might already have an idea of the expense of all of this. So again, you might be listening to this going, yeah, none of this surprises me. But I really think, and so they're saying, I should say, so for the optional expenses, they're saying like $1,200 to $4,000. I'm leaning more towards the $4,000. Just because, especially the emergency vet bills, that adds up so fast. That could hit you so high very quickly. So, I mean, really, let's see, do they have a total cost? Well, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. I just really want you to think about and share this to people who are thinking about getting a dog. Lack of better terms, such a sexy thing for people to do when they first move out. We were guilty of it with a cat. We got a cat when we moved out right away. Cat had a bunch of medical expenses. It was costing us about $800 surgery. The cat had to have like 3 times. And at the time, we didn't have a lot of money. We made it work because the other option was to put the cat down, and that just wasn't going to happen. And now he's 18. So it was definitely worth it. We got our return on investment for sure. But I think owning an animal is more than just owning the animal. It's more than just giving it food. There's so much that goes into it, and I really feel like if you're listening to this, you need to be part of the solution and just make sure you're educating people as well. Turn them on to this podcast. Turn them on to other podcasts if you listen to them. We have a Facebook page. We're on Instagram. We're on YouTube. Like, you can check us out at all those different places. You can get information and educate and prepare yourself and be ready, or your friends can, I should say. So hopefully this was helpful for you. And if it wasn't helpful for you, share this so that other people can benefit from it, especially younger people with children, people low income, stuff like that. They need to understand that there is an expense to this. Even if your dog is cheap, it's not cheap to own a dog. To buy a dog, sometimes it is. But just keep these things in mind, and I really hope this episode was helpful. Like I said, if you own a dog, you already know things are expensive. But maybe, just maybe, someone's listening to this and they don't have a dog. They're thinking about getting a dog or preparing for a dog. And more than likely, if you're listening to this and it is past 2023, you could probably add a little bit more to the expenses of these, because like I said before, all the expenses are just going up. It doesn't matter what's going on. Like, inflation going up, going down, sideways, whatever, upside down. Everything just progressively is getting more expensive. So just be ready. Be financially, mentally prepared to just spend money on your animal. I think they're worth it. And I think, you know what? They're living with us and trusting us to give them the best life possible. And so we need to financially, emotionally, mentally, knowledge, training knowledge wise, whatever, we need to be as prepared as we can to offer that to them, because they don't have a choice if they want to stay or not. They don't. It's all up to us, and we just want to set them up for success. So guys, hopefully this was helpful. Share this with your friends, family, people you love, people you hate, doesn't matter. I think they all can benefit from it. So thank you guys for listening, and of course, like always, we will see you next week.